Okay. My name is Dayanne Rodriguez, and I'm going to be speaking about dealing with grief and loss during the holidays. This is a topic that's very close to, well, everyone, because at some point in our lives, we each will face loss and grief. Um, the magic about being alive is that just like it started, it can also end, right? And in the holidays is when we most feel the emptiness because as we're wrapping gifts and we're getting ready for the celebrations, those of us that have felt the loss or grieving someone not being with us anymore is that we feel the emptiness. Um, so this is why I made these slides, and I'm actually very glad and thankful to University Settlement for this opportunity, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So what is grief? Um, Grief is the emotional suffering that we feel when something or someone is taken away from us or abandons us. A feeling that is combined with loss, pain, betrayal, depression, and or anxiety. So the reason I said someone or something is that individuals can feel grief even if they lose something that was very, very valuable to them. Like for a house, like an individual that lost a house or a job or a career, something that was very, very close to them, that could also feel like grief. Even though to some people, we think, oh, but why is that so much more important when there are individuals who are losing family members and friends? So each person, they feel their loss and their pain differently. And that feeling can be combined with pain, betrayal, depression, and anxiety. Because depending on the type of loss, we can also feel betrayed, we could feel depressed, we can feel anxious, we could have a lot of feelings combined. I'm going to go ahead and say this in Spanish real quick for those of us that only speak Spanish and understand Spanish. So, hoy vamos a estar hablando de la pérdida de las personas o de los objetos que uno considera valiosos en nuestras vidas en este momento. Si usted ha sufrido de una pérdida o se le ha muerto a alguien cercano, estas próximas páginas son para tratar de ayudar a las personas que están lidiando con ese dolor. Pero el sentimiento de pérdida es un sentimiento que puede ser combinado con muchas cosas. Puede ser combinado con depresión, ansiedad y hasta sentirse como que alguien les falló. Pero es un sentimiento que es único y que se entiende y se respeta y vamos a ver cómo les ayudamos a mejorar ese sentimiento. Um, who can experience grief? The truth is, anyone can experience grief and loss. Most people experience it at least once in their life. There are many forms of loss, and not one size fits all. The one thing that is certain is that the pain felt, regardless of the loss, is very real and it should be addressed in order to feel some relief. So, the reason I say that, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm doing this on my phone. So, the reason I say that not one size fits all is that everybody deals with grief differently, and grief is not linear. There's people that grieve the same night that the loss occurs. There's people that grieve 2 years later. There's people that have their whole life and they are still grieving. And depending on the loss that you face is also the grief. Like it's very different, a type of loss that deals with mother to child as it is to child to mother, or vice versa. Because even society views grief in a different manner. Like there's individuals who lose a pet and they're grieving a pet. And we have to understand that their pain is just as important to them as our pain is to us, whether we view our pain to be bigger. And regardless of the pain, we have to address it in order to deal with how to figure out how to get some relief. La razón que la que hablamos de quiénes pueden experimentar el sentimiento de pérdida la mayoría de personas va a experimentar pérdida, aunque sea una vez en su vida. Porque como vuelvo y digo, todo lo que vive también puede morir, o todo lo que empieza también puede terminar. Y hay muchas formas de sentir pérdida y no todo tamaño le pertenece a todo el mundo. Nosotros algunas veces pensamos que una pérdida es más grande que otra o más valiosa que otra, como cuando nosotros tratamos de poner el ejemplo, o a esta persona se le murió una mascota, pero a esta persona se le murió un hijo. Para la persona que se le murió su mascota, esa persona está pasando por su propio dolor y su propio sentimiento, y es igual de importante para esa persona, al igual que la persona que perdió un hijo. No hay un dolor más grande que otro porque la persona es la que lo siente y solamente la persona puede determinar el dolor que esa persona siente. So, when can grief be experienced? Like I said before, grief is not linear. The time when a person can start to feel grief really depends on a person to person basis. Some people start feeling grief as soon as the loss happens. Others may take weeks and even months before they start to feel the grief. This is the same with the amount of time it could take to feel better after the loss. It may take some time. For some people, a few weeks to feel the loss. It may take others years. In some cases, people don't get over it fully. Um, it is important to understand that no one has a perfect example of how to get over your grief. It really depends on who you are as a person. And like I said before, you are not alone. Everyone, every single person will experience grief at least once in their life. And even though it's very sad to say, but it still feels good to know that you are not alone in your pain. That if you were to say that you feel sad, that if you were to say you feel lost, if you were to say you feel grief, somebody out there understands. I find it more difficult when I have to speak to a child about loss than when I have to speak to an adult about loss, because an adult understands better and they kind of put it to questions. But when I'm faced with having to care for a child who has experienced loss, I stutter in words and I just choke up. So even in these moments, loss and grief can even be hard for an external person, not even someone dealing with grief, but someone that's actually there to support. Like when sometimes, somebody passes away and we say, "Oh, I'm sorry, my condolences." We even stutter saying that because we just don't have the words to explain to this person how we feel. Even though we understand, we both at the moment know that at the moment I am not going through what you're going through. So even though I understand what you're going through, I need to just be there. And there doesn't need to be an exchange of words. There just needs to be me being there for you. I'm gonna say it in Spanish. So la pérdida es experienciada por cada persona diferente, pero se basa de persona a persona. So, como dije antes, hay personas que se pueden mejorar del sentimiento de pérdida en semanas y hay otras personas que le toma meses. Pero cada persona tiene que tomarse el tiempo requerido para esa persona sentirse bien. Y hay personas que incluso nunca sueltan el sentimiento de pérdida, dependiendo de la pérdida que sintieron. Y no da ni quita en que algunas veces uno se siente como ahogado en palabras y sin saber cómo hablarle a la persona que está experimentando esa pérdida en el momento. Hay veces que uno le dice, "Oh, lo siento mucho", o "mis condolencias", y esas palabras como quiera quedan cortas. ¿Por qué? Porque uno sabe el dolor que esa persona está sintiendo. Aunque no la siento contigo, sí la entiendo. Pero lo lindo es que, y lo triste, que aunque yo entienda, todo el mundo alguna vez en su vida va a sentir esa pérdida. So, no estamos solo en nuestros sentimientos. Different types of loss. No, when I was writing this, I write everything in my notebook before I put it into words in the computer. I tried to think of every type of loss that a person can feel in their life and how it might be experienced, right? And I wanted to make something that was extremely inclusive, or as much as I possibly could. Because, like I said before, everybody deals with grief differently, and everybody deals with different life situations differently. So, in the type of losses, I put loss of a loved one. A loved one is very open. It could be anything or anyone you may love in your life. A loss of a parent, the loss of a child, the loss of love, the loss of a job, the loss of a friendship, the loss of a home, the loss of a pet, the loss of health, the loss of knowledge or change. When it comes to the loss of love, I put the loss of love because sometimes when we love someone dearly and there's a divorce involved, and you kind of feel like you are grieving someone that is still alive. You're grieving someone, and sometimes how can a war start in between children, in between divorce, in between anyone, when there was so much love here? Something died, right? And it was that love that died, and we grieve that love. When we are dealing with the loss of a job, we're also dealing with grief in many circumstances, because we start to think, this was my source of income. We start to get very upset and overwhelmed because we know there's bill to pay. We know that the life continues and we have to get out there and we need to figure it out for ourselves. So the loss of a job can also be grief. The loss of a friendship. In the loss of a friendship, you can feel the same way you did with the loss of love. Like you're grieving someone who's alive, and then you feel betrayed. And you feel like, how can two people who genuinely were friends and they went from strangers to friends go back to strangers and sometimes even enemies? And then there's moments that you miss that person. The loss of a home. The loss of a home is not only losing a house or an apartment, but losing that which you believe to be your home, a place of safety, a place of grounding, a place that was peaceful to you. And that's very important, because sometimes we could have a whole bunch of different losses put together. And sometimes the loss of a home is not just a place, but it can also be a person. The loss of a pet. A lot of us have made family members of pets, and it's beautiful. We love those little pets like they're our own. And sometimes we forget, personally, that we are not blood related. Like I was insane about my dog, and when my dog passed away, I was grieving for like 3 years. And to me, it's still hard to talk about it. So it is very hard to lose a pet, because a pet becomes a family member. The loss of health. I put this, and I feel like it's very important, because a lot of people are there dealing with illnesses and diseases and sicknesses that are really taking the best out of their health. They feel like they're not the same. They feel like they can't get up and play with their children or their grandchildren or their friends. There's people that have been given months and even weeks to live. And that's when you're dealing with the loss of health. You're grieving what your life was and how healthy you were and how much better you felt like you were living your life. And then we have the loss of knowledge, or the change in your life, in which everything you believe to be true and real in your life kind of changes. And you have like this face of reality, and you're like, this is not what my life was. And that could also feel like grief and loss. I'm gonna say it in Spanish real quick, so that those of us that understand, or at least can understand. So hay diferentes partes de pérdidas en la vida. Está la pérdida de una persona que queremos, la pérdida de un pariente, la pérdida de un hijo, la pérdida de amor, la pérdida de trabajo, la pérdida de una amistad, la pérdida de un hogar, la pérdida de una mascota, la pérdida de nuestra propia salud y la pérdida de lo que sabemos o del cambio de la vida. Cada una de estas pérdidas se pueden combinar incluso, porque hay personas que han pasado por múltiples pérdidas en el momento, y obviamente se sienten que hay varias cosas pasando en su vida, pero no quita que ninguna de estas pérdidas sea más grande que otra. Y vuelvo y te digo, tu sentimiento es importante para ti, y así tiene que entenderse por otras personas también. Things combined. As I previously stated, there may be many phases to grief, and many times the feeling of grief may combine with other feelings, causing emotions to feel more extreme. Depending on how the loss occurs, we can experience a flood of emotions that may be hard to understand and even explain. So when I say things combine, this is when I say sometimes the feeling of loss can sometimes be losing a parent. And that parent also being the head of household. And you feel like you not only lost a parent, but you also lost that most of the income that was coming in your home. You lost a home because a person can also be a home. And then you have things combined. And then you have things such as anxiety, depression, grieving, and a lot of things combined. So it's hard to explain because many times grief can even mask as anger. And most people close up and don't want to talk about it until they can face the fact. And for these individuals, grief does take longer because they have to understand that there's been multiple griefs, and therefore we have to acknowledge each grief differently and then combine it all together. That's why there's a flood in emotions, and that's why the emotions just feel more extreme. Hay veces que las pérdidas están combinadas, so hay muchas veces que hay diferentes pérdidas a la misma vez, como cuando muere un pariente y ese pariente encima de eso es la cabecilla de la casa, la persona que gana el dinero de la casa. Entonces tú te sientes como que has perdido al pariente o el familiar y encima también has perdido lo que es un hogar o has perdido varias cosas a la vez y se hace sentir que tus síntomas son más extremos y te sientes un poco peor. Y entonces cada pérdida hay que entenderla singularmente para después entenderla completa. Okay. The different types of feelings that we may have when we are dealing with grief. Some people have PTSD, depending on how the loss occurred. If, for instance, you were in a very bad car accident and you saw a loved one go through a very traumatic death, that can cause PTSD. Or feeling like you could have done more and you have flashbacks, you can have PTSD. There could also be regret of what could have been done, what could have been said, things that you feel you should have been aware of or been a part of, like when an individual is dealing with the death or the loss of someone who committed suicide, for instance. We feel regret of, why didn't I notice? Why didn't I see it? Why wasn't I there? And you start to question. That's when questioning comes in. You start to question a lot of things when somebody passes away. Was there enough done? Did I do enough? Did the doctors do enough? Did their friends or family members do enough? Was there more that could have been done? Why did this person happen? And we start to put a whole bunch of things into perspective and we have questions. Then there's the lack of understanding on both our end and maybe even the end of others because of the questionings that occur. There could be survival skills. Just like with PTSD and you were dealing with an individual who wasn't a very bad accident, for instance, like we spoke before, you could have survival skills in which it could have been me, it should have been me. This person could be here. Had I done something, had I been there, had I just been more aware, then you feel betrayal. Betrayal is very strong in grief because there's been many instances in which the person grieving feels upset at the person who passed away. Like, why did you leave me? Why did you have to make me feel this way? Why were you so selfish? Why are you not here? Or we even start to feel betrayed at the people around that person who passed away. And we start to say to ourselves, why didn't this other person do more? Had this person done more, my loved one would be here. And it's just part of grieving. And then there's faith and spirituality. Then when we start to question a higher being or we start to put a reason as there must be a reason why this person had to leave. Maybe they were called upon something bigger and we just start to question based on our spirituality and our own faith and belief system. Esta página es para describir las diferentes maneras de que una persona se puede sentir cuando está pasando por una pérdida. El desorden de trauma después que una persona se muere también puede ser una manera de que nosotros vemos la muerte de esa persona como algo traumante y se puede quedar con nosotros por un buen tiempo. Uno empieza a cuestionar lo que pasó, uno empieza a tener falta de entendimiento y uno empieza a culparse a uno mismo y a culpar a otras personas que están alrededor de esa persona que falleció. Uno empieza a sentirse como que uno no hizo lo que debió hacer y tú empiezas a tener hasta síntomas de que hiciste algo mal o que se debió hacer mal. te sientes hasta como que la persona que murió te defraudó de alguna manera porque te dejó o se fue o fue egoísta en haberse ido o terminado su propia vida. Después tenemos que empezamos a pensar en nuestra manera de pensar y nuestra espiritualidad y empezamos a cuestionar a lo que es lo que nosotros creemos, sea su religión o su base de espiritualismo, y empezamos a pensar que por una razón u otra la persona se tuvo que ir para o encontrarse con el Señor o irse a las estrellas o que fue llamada para un propósito más grande, pero eso son parte de la manera en que uno siente la pérdida de una persona querida. Okay. So while we are grieving, we start to have bigger questions. And well, we're going to try to work around to see how we can help those individuals that are grieving and dealing with loss now in the holiday. So, what can we do? What did we do? Do we deserve this? Are we being punished? And when will this suffering end? Those are some of the questions we have when we are dealing with grief. Because just like in the last slide, sometimes we feel like we just haven't done enough or we didn't do enough. These are some of the questions that we start to come around and we start to try to wonder. But the biggest question of all is, when will this suffering end? And the truth is, you will always miss your loved one. You will always think about them, but not every day. At first, obviously, the feeling will be stronger and will be worse. But as time progresses, it does get better. So, like I said before, for everyone is different. And grief is not linear. But in the end, you start to feel a little bit better. So there is light at the end of the tunnel after all, at least for those that are feeling the grief and the loss. So, ¿qué son cosas que podemos hacer? ¿O qué hicimos? ¿Nos merecemos esto? ¿Estamos siendo castigados? ¿Y cuándo se acabará? ¿Cuándo se acabará este dolor que yo siento? Estas son las preguntas que uno tiene cuando uno está lidiando con lo que es la pérdida. Y aunque uno trata de poner en perspectiva y uno trata de analizar y razonar lo que está pasando, el punto es que sea como sea, al final el sentimiento sí se mejora. Al final, aunque tome tiempo, después de un tiempo va a sentirse menos el dolor, aunque nunca olvidemos a nuestras personas queridas, aunque nunca de por sí olvidemos a las personas que queremos, pero el sentimiento sí se mejora. So, what are things we can do? We have to remember that everything comes to an end sooner or later, regardless of the situation. How we see things may help how we feel, though. This does not mean that we forget the pain or our loved one, but instead it may help to view our loss in a different light. Now, doing this differentiates based on our type of loss and our current moment in grief, but it doesn't mean that the suffering will last forever. So, como dije en mi última página, todo en la vida llega a su final. No importando la situación, todo en la vida llega a su final. Y como nosotros vemos, nuestro dolor es la única manera de diferenciar cómo uno se siente. Ahora, vuelvo y digo, todo dolor no es igual, ¿verdad? Y cada vez que veamos nuestro dolor, también tenemos que verlo de una manera que también puede ser positiva. Ahora, no quiero decir que nuestro dolor sea más peor que el de otras personas, no, pero al final del día, todo dolor también llega a su final, porque todo en la vida llega a su final. So, I love this little poem that I think I've been hearing and reading about since I was a little girl. And when I was asked to have this presentation and make it, the first thing that came to mind was this poem. And it speaks about a father who did everything he could to make sure that his dying son was healed. And at the end, he couldn't. So he was grieving. And then this is the only part that I was able to find and like stick here for you guys. So I'm going to read it. So it said, then he had a dream one night. He was in heaven and looking at a grand ceremony of all the little child angels. They were walking around a flower garden. Every child angel was carrying a lit candle. He noticed that one child's candle was not lit. After coming close, he realized that the child with the unlit candle was his own son. Having seen him, he hugged him deeply and started crying. After a few moments, he asked, "Why is your candle not lit while everyone else's candle is lit?" The child replied, "Father, they relight it often, but your tears always light off my candle." After hearing his words, he froze, and at the same time, his dream was over and he woke up. So I find the story to be very beautiful because it allows us to remember how to celebrate and honor our loved ones. And I often think, what would our loved ones want us to do this moment? Would they want us to be sad and crying? Would they want us to live in a life that's just full of sadness? Or would they want us to just enjoy the moment and live for both of us? And I feel like, regardless of the pain, we also have to look at the beauty of what once was. And a person who once lived and they also changed the perspective we have in life. We have to wonder, was it better to never have met this person and therefore never have cried this person when this person left? Or are we glad we met this person even though their life ended and we got to enjoy them even if it was just for a little bit? Esta página aquí es basada en un poema que yo leía desde pequeña. Siempre se me aparecía en todos lados. Y cuando me dijeron que yo iba a hacer esta presentación, lo primero que vino a mi mente fue este poema. Y el poema se trata de un padre que hizo lo imposible para asegurarse que su hijo, que estaba bien enfermo, sobreviviera. Al final el niño no sobrevivió, pero él dice que él tuvo un sueño en cual él llegó al cielo y vio a todos los angelitos, niños, y todos llevaban una velita encendida, y excepto un niño. Y cuando él se le acerca al niño, él se da cuenta que es su hijo. Y él lo abraza y lo besa y obviamente muy contento, hasta que le pregunta, hijo, ¿y por qué todo el mundo tiene su vela encendida y tú no? Y el niño lo mira y le contesta, papá, siempre me prenden la velita. Lo que pasa es que cada vez que tú lloras, tus lágrimas me la apagan. Y ahí el padre se levantó. Y esto es un poema que, aunque es triste, pero a la misma vez nos recuerda a nosotros que esa persona en que uno llora también vivió y que también tuvo una linda vida y que es importante nosotros también vivir nuestras vidas como esa persona quisiera que uno viviera nuestras vidas. Un ser querido de nosotros no quisiera que uno viviera su vida triste y llorando solamente. Un ser querido de nosotros va a querer que nosotros vivamos la vida lo más plena posible. Y aunque no lo hagas por ti, por lo menos hazlo por ellos. Yo siempre pregunto a las personas que sí están pasando por una pérdida, ¿te hubiese gustado nunca haber conocido a la persona que falleció y así no hubieses pasado por este dolor? ¿O está bien haberlo conocido y haber celebrado su vida mientras estaban aquí, aunque se hayan ido y ahora no se pela? Yo siento que es una pregunta que tenemos que hacer, y que la pregunta es una pregunta que no necesita respuesta, sino vida de nosotros. So, ways that we can help ourselves when we are grieving. We have to give ourselves time. Just give ourselves time. If it hurts, it hurts. We can't really do much about it, but just to allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to rest. Allow yourself to cry if you have to. Allow yourself to understand. This is very important. Understand what's happening in life, in our bodies, in our grief, and also with the person that we lost. Allow yourself to miss the past. It's okay to miss what once was. It's okay to miss what you thought you knew. It's okay to miss the person. It doesn't take away. Hiding the pain will not make it go away. But to feel is to live. And I say this every time. Every one of us who is alive, we will feel. We feel emotions, we feel touches, we feel flavors, we feel everything. We feel tears coming out of our face. To feel is to live. And there's something so beautiful about feeling. Just allow yourself to feel is very important. Another thing that we have to do in our grief is to remember our loved ones. So just like in the poem, we have to celebrate our loved ones one way or another. Because we love them, we must celebrate them. Who were they? Who were they when they were living? What did they like to do? What did they like to eat? What would they do right now for fun? What would they do? What would they be doing now if they were here with you? Like, would they be here decorating a tree with you? Would they be here lighting up candles with you? Would they be here baking a cake with you? What would they be doing right now with you here? What would they want you to do? Would they want you to just sit down and cry? Would they want you to just get up and try your hardest to just enjoy your moment while it's here? What would you do if they were here? This question is very important. What would you do if they were here? Would you be doing the same thing you are doing now, or would you be doing something different? And obviously, we have to understand, like I said, grief is not linear. So if you need the rest, take the rest. If you need the sleep, take the sleep. But also remember that we have to live in the present as much as we can. We have to just combine everything we feel, and we have to try to be here for both us and our loved ones. Esta página aquí es para recordar a las personas que amamos en nuestras vidas. ¿Quiénes eran cuando estaban acá con nosotros? ¿Qué hacían para diversión? ¿Qué estuvieran haciendo este momento si estuvieran aquí? ¿Qué les gustaría a ellos que tú estuvieras haciendo? Y ¿qué estuvieras tú haciendo si esas personas estuvieran aquí? Y esto es muy importante de entender estas palabras y ponerlas en perspectiva, porque maybe nos pueden ayudar a nosotros a sentir un poco más de lo que sentimos en este momento y a pasar un poco más el tiempo, más en estas navidades que en nada. Things that may help. Obviously, get out of bed, right? Get out of bed and just start your day. Try your hardest to get out of bed, regardless of your pain, even if just for a second, get out of bed. You can try to work out. Depending on who you are, your schedule, or your grieving process, working out might be difficult, but even a simple stretch will do. Try breathing techniques, how to breathe in and breathe out, and just allow yourself to know that every lung that's breathing is a lung that is alive. And I find that to be so beautiful, because every time, personally, when I'm going through stress, I take a deep breath and I say, I'm breathing because I am here and I am alive. Meditation. This is really good. When you meditate, you clear your mind. Even if it's just for a few minutes, just try to clear your mind and just go blank. Give yourself those minutes to just think about nothing and just enjoy the fact that you're present and you're here. You can also try yoga. Like I said, we're working out depending on your schedule. And if yoga is your thing, try yoga. It's really good. It's also a form of stretching. And the last one is very important, sleep. Even if you can't get out of bed when you're grieving, it doesn't mean you're sleeping. Because sometimes when we are grieving, we do lose a lot of sleep. We wake up in the middle of the night, and if you can, even if it's throughout the day, if you feel tired and you have to sleep, sleep. Try to sleep, try to get some rest. It is important for you, for your health, and for your grieving process. So, cosas que puedes hacer para sentirte mejor. Primero que nada, salte de esa cama. Aunque sea por un segundo, salte de esa cama. Segundo, trata de hacer ejercicio. Si puedes y si tu día a día te deja, trata de hacer algo de ejercicio. Tercero, trata de respirar. Lo lindo de respirar es que cada pulmón que vive puede respirar. Respirar es algo que tú puedes hacer, aunque sea aguantar la respiración por un segundo y dejarlo ir, te puede ayudar. Otra cosa es meditación. Meditación y yoga, que las dos cosas hasta combinadas las puedes hacer, que viene siendo estrechándote y meditar a la misma vez. Y por último, dormir. Mientras uno está pasando por un dolor tan fuerte, el dormir algunas veces es algo que es difícil para nosotros. Aunque sea por el día, trata de dormir, trata de coger un poco de descanso. ¿Por qué? Porque es importante para ti, para tu cuerpo y para tu proceso de pérdida. This one is very important, especially in the holidays, is to start new traditions. So yes, we are used to having these individuals in our lives and just doing things with them. But sometimes starting new traditions can also help us. So the truth is that you are the holidays. You are the magic that the holidays bring. We have to remember that there is still life to be lived. We cannot abandon ourselves because we are still here and we matter. Also, many of us still have other people in our life who love us and deserve for us to be present. So when I say start new traditions, you could even start something new so that way whenever you're thinking of a person, you say, I'm not only doing this in memory of them and in celebration of them, I'm doing this as a memory to myself that I'm still here and that there's other people in my life that deserve me to be here and that they also matter and that I deserve to be here because I matter. Regardless of my pain, I'm still here. And like I said, we are the holidays. We are the magic that the holidays brings. No matter how we try to mask it, without us, the decorations in our houses would not come up. The food will not cook itself. The music will not play itself. We are the holidays, and we owe it to ourselves and those around us to also be the magic that this holidays brings onto their life. So, esta página es para empezar nuevas tradiciones, tradiciones que también puede ayudarte en pasar el momento difícil en tu vida. La verdad es que nosotros somos la Navidad, nosotros somos las fiestas navideñas. Sin nosotros las fiestas no se harían. Nosotros somos la magia que trae las fiestas. Nosotros tenemos que recordar que estamos aquí, estamos presentes y no nos podemos dar por vencidos porque nosotros merecemos también vivir la vida plena. Nosotros también tenemos otras personas en nuestras vidas que también merecen que estemos aquí. Esas personas que están vivas no tienen que solamente lidiar con el dolor porque estas personas te quieren y están aquí por ti y ellos también merecen un poco de magia tuya en estas Navidades. So things that are great to try to help during the grief is to start a daily to-do list. Meaning, write down absolutely everything you need to do during the day. Things that may even seem insignificant, things that are even routinary for you. The point is to scratch things off your list and not feel stagnant. Remember to add absolutely everything to this list. And when I say absolutely anything and everything, I say every single thing. From get out of bed, brush your teeth, wash your body, do the dishes, pick up coffee, every single thing you are doing, write it down. No matter how small it is. Like if you keep seeing a box in that corner of your room and you've been meaning to pick it up, write it down in your list and then scratch it off. I want you to feel like you did something, no matter how small it is. I want you to feel like your day was spent doing something. Studies have shown that doing something for 14 days consecutively turns into a habit. Think about this next time you want to break or create a new cycle in your life. So 14 days of doing something consecutively, whether it be this list or a new workout routine or a new diet, whatever it is that you're trying to do, 14 days can turn into a habit. So whether you want to make a new habit or break that habit, 14 days is your time. So esta página es para cosas que puedes hacer mientras estás pasando por esa pérdida. So, haz una lista de las cosas que tú vayas a hacer en el día. No importa qué tan pequeña o qué tan insignificante. Cosas pequeñas como lavarse los dientes, lavarse las manos, salirse de la cama, prender la televisión, recoger una caja, lo que sea que vayas a hacer, no importa qué tan pequeño. Si lo hiciste en el día, escríbelo y escráchalo. Eso es para que tú te vayas sintiendo que estás haciendo algo con tu día y que no estás yendo en total pérdida. Los estudios han enseñado que hacer algo por 14 días consecutivos se convierte en un hábito. Y un hábito es algo que tu cuerpo va a hacer siempre. So, piensa en esto cuando la próxima vez que quieras hacer o romper un círculo de tu vida. So, this one is very important. Don't fall into old patterns. This is a very vulnerable time for many, and therefore we have to remember not to fall back into old patterns or habits. This goes without saying, not to start a bad new habits either. Keep anything toxic away from you and from your life. You have a life to live. Make sure you're present while you're existing in it. The reason I say this is because when you're grieving, you want to forget. You want to do whatever you can in order not to feel what you're feeling. Many people turn to drugs. Many people turn to alcohol. Many people turn into bad habits and putting themselves at risk. Some people have already had these patterns, have stopped these patterns, and they're coming back into them as they're grieving. Try your hardest not to fall into old patterns. Because even though you are going through a vulnerable moment, also remember what we spoke about earlier. Would your loved one want you to be doing this to yourself? And that's very important. We cannot use our loved ones as excuses to hurt ourselves. We have to keep anything and everything toxic away from us. Because, like I said, we have this life and we have to live it. And we just have to make sure that we are existing while we're at it. No matter how much it hurts, no matter how much we feel like we are in pain, only a person who is alive can feel. And we have to feel everything, even if it's pain. Don't numb yourself using outer substances because you have to stay here and you have to make sure you go through a grieving moment. Because if you close yourself up and you start doing things that are not good for you and they're toxic, you might just be numb throughout that time. And then when you stop that pattern, you might actually start your grieving process and it may take longer to heal from the grieving process. So it may not work in your benefit. So esta página está dedicada para hacerle entender que no caigan en patrones malos o patrones viejos. Esto es un momento extremadamente vulnerable para muchos y por eso tenemos que recordarnos nunca caer en patrones que dejamos en el pasado o empezar malos nuevos patrones. So, trata de mantener todo lo tóxico lejos de ti. Tú tienes una vida para vivir y es solamente justo que tú estés aquí y presente mientras estás viviendo esa vida. Eso es para personas que tratan de mascar su dolor usando drogas o alcohol o poniendo su vida en riesgo. Mientras tú estás poniendo tu vida en riesgo o estás mascando ese dolor que tú tienes usando alguna sustancia, tú estás apagando tus sentimientos y después que tú terminas esos patrones, ahí puede empezar de verdad el dolor de la pérdida. Entonces puede tomar más tiempo en sanarse. Y también tienes que recordar, tu persona querida quisiera que tú estuvieras haciendo esto. Lo más seguro no. Rely on your systems. This is both your support system and your belief system. Support systems are obviously family, friends, those of those individuals that are there for you. Don't close up the doors to your life because of loss. Even if it's tiring, even if it's annoying, even if you just want silence, allow people to be there for you because you feel like you just want silence because you're grieving. But what you need right now is the support. What you need is to allow yourself to go out and to be around people who are living because those who are living will also feel just like we are. And also rely on your belief system. Many of us believe that our family members are in a better place when they pass away. And that's very important. If you have a belief system or a spiritual system, I highly encourage to rely on it. Very much encourage. And if you don't, then just relying on your support system is important. Esto es para asegurarse que tú estés dejando otras personas en tu vida que se acerquen a ti. So, estar alrededor de personas que sí están contigo y que sí te vaquean en este momento es importante. No cierres las puertas de tu vida a las personas que están vivas solamente porque tú tienes dolor, porque esas personas están aquí y es justo que tú estés alrededor de personas que viven. ¿Por qué? Porque la pérdida fue con alguien, pero hay personas que te quieren que tienen que estar alrededor de ti. Y también en tus creencias. Si tú tienes que abrir los libros de tus creencias, a la Biblia, el Corán o cualquier creencia tuya, es bueno también entender que las personas que sí creen en esto, la mayoría de personas cree que nuestra familia está en un mejor sitio y que algún día los volveremos a ver. Y si esa es tu creencia, es importante mantenerte en esa creencia. Y si no es, pues entonces solamente con las personas que te quieren en tu vida sería bastante. So, therapy, 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 whether it be cognitive behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing therapy, cleaning therapy. I put cleaning therapy because sometimes cleaning is good. A lot of times when we're grieving, we start to get messy, we start to get depressed, we just want to hide away and we start hoarding. When you start to clean, you start to feel better. You start to feel like there's space, there's open space for you to think, there's open space for you to be. When you start to clean your body, you start to feel more alive and more well. Another thing is retail therapy. If you can and you have the time and the funds and the means, why not? Go out there and buy yourself something you want. Go out there and enjoy yourself by buying something that you've been meaning to buy yourself because you deserve it. You're here and you're strong and resilient and you can. Laugh therapy. This one is something that I try personally when I'm feeling overwhelmed. I start to watch jokes on YouTube or funny cats or funny dogs, and I feel like it does relax me because laugh therapy is something that's good because when you're laughing, you're releasing oxytocin into your body that make you feel better. Music therapy. Put on a music that's contagious. Put on a music that makes you want to move. Put on a music that makes you want to dance. And that's when dance therapy comes in. Dance a little, even if you don't feel like it. Move your body. Allow yourself to feel and to be here and to be present. Because even if you're grieving, you need to allow yourself to understand you are here and you matter. So, estas páginas para terapia. Estas son las múltiples terapias que uno puede tratar mientras uno está pasando por su pérdida. So, las primeras dos son las terapias que obviamente uno consigue con personas como terapeutas y personas que te ayudan con tu salud mental. Y las demás son terapias que tú te puedes hacer tú mismo, como la terapia de limpiar. Cuando uno limpia la casa, uno se va sintiendo mejor. O cuando uno se baña uno mismo. La terapia de comprar. Cuando tú sales a comprar, eso también te pone bien feliz. La terapia de reírse. Trata de ver cosas que te dan risa, trata de ver cosas que te alzan el humor. La terapia de la música y el baile. Aunque suene retroactivo y que lo más seguro tú no quieras sentirte como que estás pariciando o celebrando, no es eso. Tú estás bailando para enseñarte a ti misma que tú estás aquí y que tú existes y que tú importas. So, one thing is to remember who you are. Remember who you are or remember who you were before this person left your life. What did you like to do? What did you like to eat? What are things that you enjoy? And if you feel like you want to take this time to create a new you can do that too. There's always room for growth in life, and this is probably a good time to start. So, recuerda quién tú eres, recuerda quién tú eras antes de la pérdida, lo que te gustaba comer, lo que te gustaba hacer, y trata de mimicar a esa persona. Y también esto es un buen tiempo para recrear un nuevo tú, para hacer cosas que a ti te gustaría hacer nuevas. You are your biggest asset. You are the most important thing in your life. Without you, you would not exist. Just remember that. Even if it sounds selfish, we have to remember we are our biggest asset. Our mental health, our physical health, everything that has to do with us. Without us, we will not be here. I don't know how to say that and stress it enough. Tú eres lo más valioso en tu vida. Sin ti, tú no estuvieras aquí. Tu salud mental y tu salud física es lo más importante en este momento. Tú eres lo más importante en tu vida, sin importar de lo que se haya ido o lo que se haya quedado. So this is the suicide prevention hotline for those of us that may need it at any moment in which we can't have anyone around us or we cannot rely on our support system, just in case. And thank you all and happy holidays. I can't see you guys, so let me stop my screen share.
Thank you so much, Dayanne, for today's workshop. And thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I noticed some people has already left, but everything went so great. And if anyone needs handouts after the workshop, please reach out to me and let me know. Thank you so much, and happy holidays, and hope to see you all.
Thank you.
Bye, babes. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night. Yeah, that was really informative. I loved it.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna send you guys. Okay.
All right. Have a great night.
You
Happy
too.
holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays to you too.
Bye.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.